Hello, my name is Matthew Chan, and I welcome you to the latest episode of the Success Formula with Ray Williams. And Ray is going to be presenting a very great subject today, and it has to do with developing your strengths. Well, welcome, Ray. How you doing?
Thank you, Matthew. Pleasure to be here again, and looking forward to talking about this topic today.
Okay. Starting off, Ray, what do you mean by developing your strengths? Can you elaborate on that for the audience?
Sure. Love to do that. And one of the things I'm going to make a distinction of is that we're going to talk about the difference between strengths and weaknesses, which we may have a kind of an idea about, but I'm going to go into a lot more detail about it today. I'm also going to make a distinction between your natural talents, the skills, the abilities you've got, and your strengths. It's kind of four different ways of looking at your characteristics, and I'm going to make a distinction amongst those and how they are very different.
Wow.
So we're going to talk about that.
I like that. Okay. Never thought of it that way.
Because often we get them mixed up. We think that our abilities are our strengths, or our natural talents are our strengths, or the knowledge that you've acquired are your strengths, but they're actually very different things.
Oh.
So let me start out by saying that one of the problems we have in our society today is that we focus too much on weaknesses. And I think it's partly because it's a Western tradition that comes out of the scientific method. What do we do when we want to find the answer to a scientific problem? And whether it's in medicine or science, or it really doesn't matter. We take a look at the problem, find out what's wrong, and we solve it.
Right.
That tends to be a weakness problem-solving approach. You look at what's wrong and you fix it. Right?
Right.
All right. So that kind of idea permeates our education system. You go to school, and what's the teacher focus on? Is the answers you got wrong.
Okay.
Right?
Yes.
That you need to correct. And you think about all the time you went through school, you would focus on why did I get these wrong, and what was wrong with that? I need to correct that.
That's right.
You didn't focus on all the stuff you got right.
That is true.
Okay, so just generally speaking, that's one of the reasons we have difficulty focusing and developing strengths in our society, is because we tend to focus on weaknesses, solving problems, and what's wrong.
Okay.
That's also true in personal relationships. In personal relationships, the marriage is not going well. The partnership's not going well. What do we focus on? What's not going well. And we try and fix it, right? That's focusing on weaknesses.
Okay.
Okay, you look at a business. The business is not doing particularly well, particularly if you're an entrepreneur. The sales are not so good. You're having customer complaints. So what's the automatic tendency? Let's look at what's going wrong and fix the problem. Okay. So by implication, we actually have a focus on weaknesses in our society, and that does not help you develop your strengths. So what I'm saying, and this is a basic proposition here, if you want to get really successful in life, this is what this series is about,
yes,
then focus on your strengths and stop thinking about your weaknesses. And I'm going to talk in detail about what I mean by that, okay?
Definitely. You know, before, not to break your rhythm too much, but when you were talking about how our society was focusing on weaknesses, you know, the medical industry is prevalent about that. It's like, okay, you know, you're sick. You know, it's always like and it's about the pills versus trying to cultivate a mindset of just simply being healthy, how to stay healthy, not always like, as you say, focus on the negative. So anyway, I was just thinking about how the medical industry is just full of that stuff.
You're exactly right. It's the medicine, the way it's practiced, and you know, God help our great doctors. I know I use them. Focuses so much on disease as opposed to good health.
Yes.
And I think
prevention.
that the cost of which, exactly, the cost of which is going to be, you haven't seen the astronomical figures that are coming yet. And it's because of healthy lifestyles are not being promoted.
Yeah.
Anyway, we'll leave that for now. So
that's right.
So that's basic proposition number one.
Okay.
proposition number 2 is Gallup did a massive study, the Gallup organization, which does a lot of research, did a massive study about what are the ways we can improve the workplace, what are the ways in which we could get greater productivity out of employees in the workplace. And one of the things they came up with, which they published in, is called their Strengths Finder and their Strengths Analysis. And an author called Marcus Buckingham then had a number of publications come out about that. And I mentioned that only because one of the things they found was that if you actually focused on employee strengths and bolstered those, productivity went up as opposed to focusing on the things they did wrong.
Interesting.
So I'm going to talk about the differences then between natural abilities, knowledge, skills, and ability, and tell you the differences. Your natural abilities, or your natural talents, I should say, natural talents, is what you were born with. So what are your natural talents that you were born with, you just know that are just, hey, I'm really good at this. What are they?
You're asking me what my natural talents? Well, when you set this up in the beginning, I thought I knew what my natural talents are, but when you said that there was like some breaking up, it kind of made me kind of doubt. I was like, okay, what is learned versus what was natural? I guess I was told by my mother that I was pretty analytical. I was able to discern and read at a very, very young age. So I guess I was born with some degree of natural intelligence, which is kind of nice, I suppose. I think that's one of them.
Okay, so there you go. So natural talents are what you're born with. It's genetically determined and passed on to you.
Okay.
It's not something you've developed. Not something you developed in school. So some people, for example, have natural athletic ability.
Yes.
From birth.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? They're born with it. They weren't necessarily developed with it, and they often become professional or competitive athletes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Some people are naturally very intellectually intelligent. Some people are naturally have great creative talent in music. So you'll see a 3-year-old who can play a piano. Okay, that's natural talent. Some people are natural rhythm, and they are great dancers, right? And they can dance incredibly without very much instruction. Okay? That's natural talent.
Okay.
Now, knowledge is what you learn in school or what you learn independently at home through reading and other kinds of things that you acquire that knowledge. That's not the same as a natural talent. Okay, and a skill is how good you are at a particular thing. So, for example, a friend of mine, Ricardo, he has incredible skill at being able to do really, really fine motor things with very, very small objects. Or someone else may have a particular skill of being able to do woodworking figures with saws and etc. Okay, because they can use their hands in a particular way. That's a skill that they've acquired that you can perfect. Then the last area is ability, is how well do you do something. So, for example, if I was playing tennis, I might have a somewhat natural ability or natural talent to play tennis because I'm naturally athletic. And someone's taught me the knowledge of tennis, and I have a bit of skill because I keep practicing it over and over again. But my ability starts to shine when I play in competition.
Is that right?
And I start being competitive in tournaments. So that's where I've combined all 4 of those things. So I really wanted to make a distinction between the natural talent, the knowledge, the skills and ability, and what I want to talk about now is how you put them together to actually become stronger at something. So that's where I want to go next.
All right.
Okay?
Yes.
All right. So your greatest strengths are built around your natural talents, not around your knowledge, skills, or abilities. And that's because...
Say that one more time.
Your greatest strengths are built around your natural talents.
Okay.
Because of 3 reasons. It's easy to get good at it.
Okay. You want to do things that are easy.
It's easy to get good at it, yeah. You want to do things that come easy to you, and you can become really good at it if you also add skills and abilities and knowledge. Okay, if you're not naturally talented at something, it's really, really hard to become really good at that. Okay, it's really, really hard to develop a strength out of it. You can be pretty good, but to be really good at it, it's very difficult. Okay?
Okay.
So, what I want to talk about next is, then how do you then improve your strengths and minimize your weaknesses? So, here's tip number one. Tip number one is know what your natural talents are and spend a long time or a lot of time developing those and making them really, really good. So if your natural talent is using your mind, Matthew, which it is because you're a really smart guy,
well, thank you.
Okay, you want to spend as much as your time developing that mind of yours and applying it to business, as opposed to you working on your dancing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for
Not that it's a weakness, but...
Are you picking on me because you know I'm trying to be a better dancer?
No, I'm not.
Okay.
But what people tend to do is they spend a long time, a lot of their time and energy trying to improve a weakness. So this is what I'll tell you is that if you spend all your time improving your weaknesses, your strengths will decline.
Because of what? Because
your strengths will decline. That's right, and you're not developing them.
Okay.
Right. So, for example, one of my strengths is my ability to connect with people at a personal level.
Yes.
I'm really good at that.
Yes, you are.
If I then ignore that natural talent, being able to connect with people personally, and I sit behind my computer and do writing, because I also do a lot of writing,
yes, you
and
do.
I spend all my time writing, okay, I'm not developing my strength. My writing is pretty good, but I wouldn't regard it in the same category as my personal connection.
Okay.
If instead I spent all my time trying to fix the garage or paint the house or do something I know is a real weakness of mine, that's going to take time away from developing my really good natural talent, which produces the most amount of money and satisfaction for me.
Good point.
So that's what I mean. If you spend time on correcting your weaknesses instead of developing your strengths, you reduce your personal power and your productivity.
Okay.
So, get into some more detail about that. How do you know what your natural talents are? Here's the way to know. So you're going to be able to apply this to yours. You just gave me one of yours. You're a really smart guy. Okay. This is the way you know you have a natural talent. When you do something, it's really easy to do it.
That's a clue.
It's easy.
If it comes easy
that's
to
a clue.
you, that's a clue. Okay,
if it comes easy. Right.
I buy that.
Yeah. Number two is that you love doing it. You love doing it. You like to do it.
Yeah, just like
whatever
I love
happens to be.
This is great. Yeah.
Right, exactly.
Okay.
Number 3, there's a feeling of flow to it. You lose track of time. You're not conscious of anything else going on. You get into a zone. You're in a zone, right?
Yeah, you hear about the zone for, like athletes, they get into a zone. So I guess it can pertain to us, the rest of us non-athletes.
Exactly.
Okay.
It's true of musicians and artists and actors.
Yes.
It applies to everybody. Applies to everybody. When my wife we had 4 children. When my wife used to be with our young children growing up, and she was doing something with one of the children, like doing painting or something like that with them, she'd get into a zone with them, and nothing else existed.
Wow. Okay.
Because it was a strength of hers, a natural talent. She developed it, and she just got in there and oblivious to everything in the world.
Okay. And she was happy.
So that's one of the ways. A state of flow. You lose consciousness of everything else, and it's easy, and you love doing it. And here's the last thing, is you learn it very quickly.
Yes. I like that.
You learn quickly.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
There are some things
that's the way to determine whether you have, If you're trying to do something that's a weakness, you don't learn it quickly. You probably don't love it. It's not easy.
Yes.
Right? Mm-hmm. And you're not in a state of flow. You're hoping this could be over with soon. Okay, so here's what my suggestion is for people about developing their strengths. First of all, learn what your natural talents are. Get a sheet of paper out and write down, what are my natural talents? Using that criteria that I just mentioned. It's easy. You love it. You're in a state of flow. You learn quickly. Okay? And that's going to determine whether the things that your natural talents. That's not your knowledge, skills, or abilities. Okay.
Right.
So let's talk a little bit about weakness. Okay. The reason you don't focus on your weaknesses. Here are the reasons you don't focus on your weaknesses.
Okay.
The chances are something you're weak at, the best you're going to be able to do is to make it mediocre. You will never be a master at something you're weak at. Because it's not a natural talent.
That makes sense.
Okay? So, if I'm not particularly well coordinated, and I decide I want to become a golfer or a tennis player or anything, I can work at it and work at it and work at it and get pretty good at it, maybe, right? Mm-hmm. Or even mediocre or okay at it. I will never be really good at it. Never be really good at it.
That's going to be a tough pill to swallow for some people. I got to tell you.
Yes. Because it's not easy. I don't learn quickly. I'm not in a state of flow, and I don't love it.
Okay.
For those reasons, you will never be really good at it. You'll be okay at it. You'll be better at it. But here's the thing. The amount of energy you've got to spend, Matthew, on making a weakness better is 100, 1,000 times more energy and time on that than it would take you to improve a strength and make it twice as strong.
Yeah, it would.
So why would you want to do that?
Yeah, it would be greatly disproportionate in the effort you needed to do it. I got you.
Exactly. So I want to use two examples that people can think about. Tiger Woods.
All right.
Where do you think he spends most of his practice time when he was in the top of his game? What part of the game did he spend most of his time practicing?
Well, I don't know much about golf, but I'm guessing he's out there all the time in the green. Now, which aspect, I couldn't tell you.
Yeah, well, what they found, and they've taken a look at it, is that what they found is that he spends his time on the tee, driving. He's one of the longest drivers there. I think he averages 312 yards off the tee. He spends his time what's called up and down, which is the short shots onto the green, and putting, because that's where you're going to get the most reduction in strokes. He does not spend his time practicing getting out of sand traps.
Interesting. Okay.
He's okay at He's okay at practice. He's okay at getting out of sand traps. He's okay at it. But it's not a particular strength of his. So when he was asked, why don't you spend more time getting out of sand traps? Because occasionally he's not that great, although he has spectacular shots. He said, why would I want to practice something that I'm weak at? Because I'll practice things that I'm really good at.
Now, let me ask you, I'm not real familiar with golf, but do sand traps happen a lot? I don't think it does. Is that a fairly unusual thing?
Oh, yeah. You watch a tournament, and there are lots of players get in the traps, that's for sure.
Oh, okay.
And they practice getting out of them.
Okay.
So my point there is that here's an athlete at the top of his game that did not spend a lot of time practicing the things he was not good at. He spent his time practicing the things he was really good at.
I like that. That's a great example. Okay.
Yeah. So you can use that. You can use that in any walk of life, in anything that but you have to know what your natural talent is. What are you really good at? Okay? So that's one thing. So here's another thing is that what you can do then about your weaknesses in relationship to your strengths is make a list of your weaknesses. I like to call them challenges rather than weaknesses. Weaknesses is too negative to me. What's your challenge? Do it that way.
That's a pretty long list, I got to tell you. I don't know if I can.
Well, you start out by saying no. the first thing you got to do is you have to start out by saying, you know what, it's not going to be a long list. It's going to be a short list.
Oh, okay.
Because the longer you make the list, the more you focus on, oh my God, here are all the things I can't do, and then you have a negative state of mind.
Okay.
But here's the thing you can do that will use your strengths in dealing with your weaknesses or challenges, is you make a list of the weaknesses you've got.
Mm-hmm.
Take a look at the list of strengths that you have, and you take number one weakness, and you look down your strengths and say, which of my strengths could help me with that weakness?
You mean as an offsetting feature? Is that what you're saying?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. How can I use one of my strengths to help me with that weakness?
Interesting.
Yeah. So let's use an example. Do you mind being a guinea pig here?
Sure. Go ahead.
You sure? Or do you want me to be the guinea pig?
No. I don't mind. Well, I'll put myself out there.
Okay. Okay. So let's list one of your weaknesses. What's one of your weaknesses?
Gosh. One of my weaknesses is that I can get bored. If I get bored on a project or a job, I want out. That's always been my pattern. You know,
okay.
If I get bored,
okay.
I want to get out of it.
Okay. So would you say the weakness then is inability to sustain focus, or is it that you just get bored?
Well, I think I don't like factory work. I don't like something that's just tremendously monotonous. I guess because
okay, so you're bored with routine.
Right. I don't like routine, and I like mental stimulation.
Yeah.
So when you do new projects, you're always stimulated.
All right. Okay. So let's take that. You're bored with routine, as you say, that's one of your weaknesses. Now, let's go back to the strengths that you've got. Mm-hmm. Think of the natural strengths you've got that you could use to attack the problem being bored with routine.
Well, the businessman in me basically says, well, use your strengths to earn the money so you can take that money and hire it out to take care of the mundane stuff, which is kind of what I do right now.
There you go.
Like the bookkeeping. I hate that, there's just a lot of the paperwork. I don't like that, and I've got somebody to do that. I pay her to do that. I don't know if that's a good example, but that's what I do.
That's a perfect example there. So what you've said is, you know what, I'm not good, and to use a parallel example, I'm not really good at detail, following up detail. Mm-hmm. So I could really work on that and become much more organized, much more detailed, keep notes, make sure I've got, records of everything. Or I could say, you know what, it's not a strength of mine, and to continue to work on it, at best I'm going to become mediocre. I'll be okay. But is it worth all my energy and time? No, it isn't. It's worth my energy and time to work on my strengths, which produces more results in money and happiness for me, and that's where I'm going to put my time. Okay. And the result of that is that I can now hire somebody to take care of my detail.
Okay. That makes sense.
Same thing as you did.
Yeah, it is very similar.
So what's really critical here in developing your strengths, Matthew, is that whoever you are, whether you're a professional or an entrepreneur, is make a list of your natural talents. Okay. What those natural talents are. Not the stuff that you've learned in school, not the stuff you necessarily practice and you're okay at. What were you really good at, that you love doing, that came easy to you, that put you in a state of flow, in the zone, and you learn quickly? Make a list of those things and keep them handy. Then you make a second list, and you can just divide a piece of paper in half and make a list of your weaknesses. Mm-hmm. I suggest to people never list more than 10 weaknesses. Maximum.
Well, I think a lot of people will be very happy that you impose that limit on everybody. Yeah. Ray says no more
because
than 10. Because
if you do it, that's right. Otherwise, you're just beating up on yourself, and that's no good. Then you've got your two lists, right, side by side. Then you go to your first weakness, and you say, okay, now I'm going to look over my strengths list here, and which of these strengths could I use to actually help with that weakness. And you see what you're doing when you're doing this? You're not focusing on the negative.
Certainly
you're not focusing on... Yeah. The focus is, what's my strength that can help me with this?
Yes.
The other way is to focus only on the negative part of the weaknesses, forget about your strengths, and that lowers your self-esteem and your sense of personal power in order to be able to do things.
It's an energy suck, what that is.
Exactly. Because you're constantly thinking, I really suck at this. I should get better at this. And you keep working at it, How can that be a positive state of mind?
Yes.
So that's the key here then, Matthew, is that don't focus on your weaknesses, number one.
Okay.
Focus on your strengths.
Okay.
Number two is determine what those natural talents that you have are by using the criteria that I mentioned. Did it come easy? Did you learn quickly? Do you love doing it? Are you in a zone when you're doing it? That's the way.
Okay.
That will tell you what the natural strengths are. And separate those from the things that you've learned through school as abilities, skills, or knowledge.
Okay.
Then when you list your natural or your weaknesses, you take a look at what your strengths are as a way of making those weaknesses minimal, so they're not a big deal in your life. And stop spending time on trying to correct your weaknesses, because they're a demotivator.
I love it. I love what you're saying.
All right. That's my message for today, my friend.
Okay. All righty. Well, obviously this was an information-packed episode, and the one thing that I would like to share with you viewers is that through this our show system on the internet, you have the ability to freeze the video at any given point. So one of the things that I was thinking to myself as Ray was going through this, because we have a finite amount of time to cover the material in the show, is that for me personally, I'm probably going to revisit this subject on my own, and I am going to freeze the video at certain parts while I'm thinking and writing. So that would be my suggestion to you. You don't have to sit here and watch the episodes in one fell swoop. I mean, you definitely have permission to rewind, stop, jump, or whatever. So I encourage you to do that. But in any case, I did want to get that out. Well, Ray, I really, really enjoyed this episode. I mean, I've enjoyed all the episodes, but there's just something very motivating for me talking about strengths. And, listening to you, you definitely have a very different take than what I've, been accustomed to. And so I think if I'm representative of at least even a fraction of our viewers, I think they're going to enjoy the paradigm shift. And I really believe that. So, Ray, thank you very much. Now, before we close this out, are there any other parting words that you would like to share before we sign off today?
Yeah. Right. One final thing, too, is we've been talking about developing your own strengths. And I'd really encourage people, because we talked a little bit about relationships just briefly in this segment, I'd really encourage people to, when you're engaged with someone else as well, when you're dealing with them, when it's a person in a business relationship, when it's a customer, when it's your mate in life, again, focus on the strengths of that person, not their weaknesses. Stop pointing out the things that they're doing wrong. Stop being critical. Stop being non-judgmental. Instead, being appreciative of what they have, that's a great strength that they bring into your life. And when you do that, I think you build a solid relationship, and that can add to success as well.
I think that's a great piece of advice, and definitely working with people. And that's something that I've had to work on over the years, and it does make life a lot easier when you do focus on other people's strengths versus the weaknesses. Very good. Okay, on behalf of Ray and myself, thank you for taking the time to watch this episode, and we hope you'll join us on the next episode of The Success Formula with Ray Williams. Thank you very much, and have a good evening.
Bye for now.